So I've heard in the past that people think that flesh and blood is in a bauble, and we all know that when baubles get too big, they crack, man. And I wanted to make a long rant discussion video on this topic of baubles and if flesh and blood is in one, yes, no, maybe. I don't know what that is. I'm gonna go over that all stuff. And I want to say in the beginning, as I always do with this type of stuff, man, I'm a normal guy in a normal room. That this is just a normal room I am. This is a normal shirt. I am nobody special. This is not financial advice. Please seek someone else for that. I'm just doing this as entertainment here. We're talking about baubles and seeing if they're about to crack or if there's no bauble at all or what's happening, man. And just to date this video, this is February 6th is when I'm recording this video right now. And I've heard in the past, so all up until this point that we've had in Flesh and Blood, there's been three market spikes that I've seen in the secondary market of Flesh and Blood so far, and they've all happened in 2020. And essentially, from my standpoint, from what I've seen, is the market really moves with booster boxes. So the Welcome to Wrath alpha boxes and the Arcane Rising alpha boxes is what first moves in the market. It is more of a catalyst to every other little thing out there in the flesh and blood secondary market, and that's really interesting to me. It really is a interesting type of thing, and that's a perception I have. Is that is the first linchpin when the market spikes, when there's an upward momentum. That is the first thing that happens. Is the booster boxes go up in price due to some type of information or whatnot happening, and then everything else goes up with it. And it's interesting how that works. And then after that, there's just buying frenzies for all those little things. And then there's a cool off period. And then after the cool off period, I feel that price memory really fixes these new price points in our mind and before the next big spike. And I've said in my other videos in the past, there's three market spikes, and I've talked about them in previous videos. But so far, after these three spikes, it's just making the bauble get bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, at first it was a small bauble, but now it's a gigantic bauble, and people think that, man, this game has made so much appreciation in the last literally 3 to 6 months than Magic the Gathering has had in the last 20 years. And they think, wow, maybe this is a little concerning. I mean, a trading card game produced in 2020 and 2019 has the same type of market values as these older reserve lists and other cards of Magic the Gathering and other trading card games that are older, like Pokemon. And it worries people. And I do see, so the pro side of everything is I do see that things are hyped up to an insane level. And I do see that cards from Alpha Welcome to Wrath, specifically in Arcane Rising, especially the cold foil cards, can go for $1,000 to $3,000. I don't know what they're at now, man. They're just ridiculously high. But you can compare them literally to a card that was made in the 1990s, and they have a very close price point, and that scares people, and that's why people think that Flesh and Blood isn't a bauble. And I mean, that is mostly a good, reasonable judgment to make. But on the flip side of that, I think personally that at this time, the price is set for all the products out there, and the market is really justified based on the Alpha Welcome to Wrath booster boxes and the Alpha Arcane Rising booster boxes. Those are what you got to look at first if you really want to know what the secondary market is about and how things are going. If that box price goes up or down, the market is based off that first and foremost in my mind. And they are at really high levels. But just like back in the day, I mean, when I first started my channel, I thought a $300 Welcome to Wrath booster box was ridiculous. I was like, I'm not paying $300 for a booster box. Are you out of your mind? And then it went up to 1,000, and I was like, $1,000? I can't pay $1,000 for a booster box. And then it went up again, and it's that price memory, man. It sinks into you. It's like a little thing, and overall, Are the boxes really high priced? Yes. Will it go up or down? I have no idea, man. I don't know what the market's going to do, but I can tell you that I think the big takeaway from all this is that the main supply of the booster boxes of Welcome's Wrath and Arcane Rising are in very few hands. I think that they're in maybe 90 to 95% of the big whale type people who had a ton of these. So I think at least 95% of the total remaining booster boxes for the alpha sets are in a very small, limited group of people's hands. Now, you have to think if you're one of these groups of people, would you fire sell like 10 if you're holding 150 boxes of Welcome to Wrath Alpha, are you going to put 10 on eBay and try to fire sell it? No. You're going to try to maintain that price memory that everyone has at those exorbitant rates. So you have literally no incentive to sell at lower rates because then you're literally devaluing all your other products. So, I mean, in that scenario, let's say you know, you undercut everyone else. So the box is going like let's say a booster box is going for $1,000 secondary market rate, and you undercut a bunch of people and sell them for like $700. Well, then that difference, the $300, you literally screw yourself over because then every other booster box that you have is going to be $300 less. And then when you multiply $300 by 150 booster boxes that you have, that's a ton of money. Are you really going to screw yourself over and devalue your own asset? There's no way you're going to do that. And not only that, I think that based on the success of the game so far, nobody wants to get rid of their booster boxes. Everybody knows that they have diamond hands, that they have something that's of value that is just going to go up over time because there's just none of it available out there. And, the single prices are holding too because there's not as much a supply. And, you know, there is a big issue of that too, is that supply that was printed for Flesh and Blood was not as big as a lot of other games, a lot of other trading card games. They went out the door with a lower print run from what we've been communicated and what we've seen in the market so far. We still do not know the print runs specifically. We have an estimated value of 22,000 for Welcome to Wrath and Arcane Rising, but that was an estimate, and we do not know for sure what the true amount is. Once we find that out, then we'll know for sure. And I think that it's probably around there, but we'll just have to see. And with that market price perception of low amount of booster boxes and these people holding a ton of them, like it's just an asset that literally can just go up. And to wrap it all up, man, or I don't know if I want to wrap it up yet. I'm just thinking more about it, and should anyone go out and invest in these things? I don't know. I'm just a normal guy. Me personally, I don't think I'd ever do it. I mean, even if it has the chances, even if you spend $5,000 on a box, even if it goes to, $20,000 over the course of time, and that would be even crazy, but who knows? Could happen. You know, you've only made 75% back on, of the thing. You've only made maybe 4 times your investment. It's not really worth it in my mind. I mean, maybe it'll happen, maybe not. But another thing you have to take into consideration is once you get past the $3,000, $4,000 threshold per box, you have a very, very tough time trying to offload that, man. And I can't imagine trying to sell those boxes online or to people. That would scare the heck out of me. And a lot of people are probably good, but I'm just worried that if I buy one of those things, it's gonna be faked and someone's gonna put a bunch of random crap in the middle of the box, and I'm gonna buy some forged thing, and I'm not gonna get really a legit product. But I'm also worried if I'm going to sell it to someone that they're going to be upset at me, that they're like, oh, I opened the box and I didn't get a cold foil and that's your fault, you repacked all these, I want my money back. I mean, you just get into a bunch of tough issues when you're selling it at that scale. And I'm sure a lot of people are fine with that. People probably do a lot of those deals no matter what. But I just think that overall, even if we are in a bubble, right? Let's get back to that scenario. So even if it's there, and even if these prices are big and absorbent, it doesn't matter because the people who have the product are not going to reduce the price of the product because only a certain number of people, in my mind, this is pure speculation. I don't think that many people, like single people like me, normal guys in the normal rooms, I do not think that the normal guys in the normal rooms have a lot of these boxes. No, I think that these big people out there, the whales and different stores and whatnot, those are the ones who hoarded all these things and kept them sealed. And they didn't really hoard them all up, really. They just kept them sealed. I mean, if everyone like me or normal people in their normal rooms kept the boxes sealed, I think it would be a lot more way to make the market move in certain ways and up and down. But when you have only a bunch of people who are, have a ton of these things, they care about undercutting. They do not want to undercut because, like I said before, if they undercut, then everything else that they have in their inventory is undercut as well. But if you were a person, if let's say I had a Welcome to Wrath box and I didn't want it, right? I'll sell undercut anyone. I don't care. Let's say I undercut someone for $200. Doesn't matter. I'll sell my box a lot faster and it'll be a lot easier for me. And then even still, like all the boxes that I have won't matter because I don't have any other boxes. I just had that one. And even if I undercut by $200, it doesn't affect the rest of my stuff. Whereas if you are someone who has it, then yeah, you're not putting yourself in a good position. Now, another flip side of the coin, devil's advocate, I want to say that Welcome to Wrath Unlimited. I don't know what's happened with it, but I know that the cards will be printed for people to play. So what will happen in the next 1 to 2 years is tons of more cards will be printed in various sets, getting them out to the market. And once people have these in their hands and know what's good and what's bad, and they can just play the game with normal cards, is there going to be as much demand for those cold foil cards and such by the actual players? Who knows? I mean, personally, I like the rainbow foil cards. I like them a little bit better than the cold foil. I like the cold foil too. It has a nice touch, but I just love the rainbow foilish, especially on some cards, man. It just looks so good. It looks awesome. And I really don't really mind it. And I think there's going to be a lot of people out there in the next 2 years who are like, yeah, do I really need this cold foil card? I can just sell it, and it is a piece of history. I will say that. I'm going to hold a lot of cold foil cards. I'm not going to BS you guys. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm going to get rid of all my cold foils. No, I'm keeping them. I think they're a great collector's piece. I'm mainly a collector. I'm not BSing anyone about that. So I like cold foils. But personally, I think that the greater mass people who have things like, let's say, a blood sheath skeleton, which is the visceri armor, or if they have, the boots of Kano or any of the types of cold foil cards because they needed it at the time, if they know that they can sell that card and literally get a bunch of money and get the same card back, they're probably going to want to do that. I mean, because not only can they get cash up front, but then they can get the card that they want. Now, another point to consider then too is what is the print run of those cards specifically and putting numbers to them. Because like we've seen in the cold foil crazy brew, I mean that's 1 out of 2,000. So Crazy Brew is currently trending around $400 at this point, and on eBay it is probably different places, but around the $400 range is where the cold foil and rainbow foil Crazy Brew card, the promo card that has all those things on it, is around. So 1 out of 2,000. So if these cards, the cold foil ones, are more than 2,000, let's say there's 10,000 of each, and of the equipment is specifically, it's like will they drop, will they increase? It's tough to say, man. It's tough to say. But essentially what I just delved into right there is the total supply out there for singles will definitely affect in the future if we are in a bobble. But just just overall, man, it's it's going to be interesting throughout the rest of the year on how the market moves. And like I said before, this is February 2021. We're currently in a cool off period where we're currently memorizing the prices of different things in our mind to make us feel good about that before the next spike. But I'll tell you that at the end of the day, love it, don't love it, think it's a bobble, think it's gonna crack at any minute. I don't think that that is really going to happen personally. And will there be times where people get completely burned on Flesh and Blood? And will prices drop drastically? Yeah, it's a trading card game. Welcome to TCGs. It happens. And if Flesh and Blood is going to stay around for a long ass time, which I definitely think it will, this type of occurrence will happen eventually. But with the alpha stuff, it's just different because let's look at Magic the Gathering for a little bit. And when you think of that, right, it's taken a lot longer for those types of cards, the ones that are desirable, like Power Nine, to really accumulate into a certain pool of different people's vaults, right? And that is what propped up those cards in my mind. Because if you have only a certain number of people who put cards in their vault and they never sell them, never do anything, you've just drastically reduced the supply out there in the market for those cards. So essentially, yeah, like that increases the price because there's just no supplies out there because that person's never going to sell those cards. And it's taken such a long time for that to happen because nobody really was big into trading, investing into TCGs back in the day. Now, what you have in Flesh and Blood is people drastically got a bunch of product early on. They got a ton of product and various groups out there. And, I don't know for sure. I can't tell you this for 100%, but that's what it seems like is that certain people, and I mean, we've seen, I guess, one of the big examples, the Saint. He's making YouTube videos for the Fabled Hunters channel. Really like his channel. Really like his videos, especially the ones where he's just straight and real with people and talks about how uh, he is as a collector and his deep opinions on all the trading card games out there. Just just really awesome stuff. Seriously, I please check him out if you haven't, but I'm sure you have if you're listening to me. But essentially, he bought out a bunch of Welcome to Wrath booster boxes from CFB. So I think if he exists, then that dubs the question that, well, are there any other of saints out there? How many saints exist? Is it 12 saints in the world? And if there are 12 saints out there, then why would they sell boost? Then that dubs the question of, well, how much percentage do they own of the market? I think it's very high. I think they own the majority of sealed product for Welcome to Wrath Alpha and Arcane Rising Alpha. And when you have that situation, like I said before, it drives up the prices. And that's why Flesh and Blood has been way different from Magic the Gathering because we're in an era now in 2020 and 2021 that people understand that these collectibles are investable or you can put a ton of money of it into it and it is an asset. And Legend Stories Studios even said you were investing here. This is an investment. You should profit from your investment. It's on the reprint philosophy tab. It says investment a couple times, and they definitely think that the card should maintain value on the secondary market. They acknowledge the secondary market, which is huge, man. So even though Flesh and Blood might be in a bobble, I don't think it's going to crack. think Flesh and Blood secondary market is the uncracked Bauble, and it will not crack for those sets. It's going to take something else. It's going to take some other type of asset of Flesh and Blood, not the Welcome to Wrath or Arcane Rising booster boxes. Those will not be, in my mind, in my opinion, a normal guy in a normal room. I bought this shirt for $5. I'm no special person, but I don't think when the Bauble cracks, it's gonna be based off of those booster boxes because of what I've previously aforementionedly said with a short amount of people owning them. But it will have to happen in my mind. The Bauble's gotta crack, guys, in some way, shape, or form, because when you look at Flesh and Blood and you look at how much people are pre-ordering for the Monarch product, it's ridiculous. It's because they know, and I've said this in the past, that the golden sticker of alpha or the first edition thing, it's money, and people know that. People know that they just buy these things for $100 each and throw them under their bed for 3 months, and then, well, lo and behold, like the Tooth Fairy, LSS blesses your bed with bars of gold under your bed, and then you can sell them for a triple, 4 times the price. And I'm, I, and everyone knows this. Everyone knows that this is a Tooth Fairy type scenario, and I think it's gonna take some sort of event to happen. I don't know when. I'm not predicting the future, and this isn't really a oh wow, Bronson's predicting the future. Oh, holy shit! Like, oh, maybe it's gonna go down. No, man, it's gonna do this eventually, regardless of what I say, because it's just a TCG, and in time this will happen. Is it now? Is it in February 2021? Is it in June 2021? Is it in 2023? Who knows, man? But there's got to be some sort of event, because if not, people just keep trying to buy out the golden seal booster boxes because there's money in them. So in my mind, it's got to be that type of product. It's got to be that type of product that spurs this type of crack in the Bauble that really makes people second guess and second think of what's going to happen with the cards. And I'll be really blunt. What's going to happen is, if people do that, if the Bauble does crack, it's gonna be no big deal for the original cards, for Alpha Welcome to Wrath, for Alpha, Arcane Rising. The people who have that, it's gonna be no big deal. If the box prices go down, they will just buy them up and then resell at a higher price later on when everyone chills the fuck out. And something, a story from that is, I used to do some sort of, and I know this is really late in the video, not too many people are paying attention, but I used to do this thing on this old MMORPG where there's this consumable item, and I knew people wanted it, and I knew not that many existed, and I would buy them out for 500 gold pieces a piece, and I would resell them for like, 2,000 gold pieces. And I knew I could get away with it because I had more money than what was on the market. So I would buy out the 20 items, resell them at 2,000 a piece, and then if anyone undercut me, if there's any type of undercut, I would just buy them out. I'd buy them out at the 500, relist for 2,000. And I could do this faster than what was available on the thing, and I had the capital to do so. And turning this story from my childhood into Flesh and Blood, it's the same fucking thing. If people have enough money out there, and there's really not that many booster boxes in people's hands of the people who don't have tons of it, literally they can really just set the price to what they want. And if they see anybody undercut them, they just buy it up, because the people who don't, the people who only have like one or two or three booster boxes, they probably represent maybe, I don't know, 3 to 5% of the total population of people who have, you know, booster boxes that are only like, one or two or three. And of that, I mean, if I had to estimate, I'd say maybe 500 boxes are in that sphere where they could undercut and they could. But once those are all gobbled up, man, then really, then they can't go down in a sense. It's going to be weird, and I just wanted to put this out there because it's an interesting topic. And I don't really like to talk about the market too much currently, especially because all this FOMO and Hurricane FOMO has just devastated Flesh and Blood, and it's hard to predict stuff, guys. It's really hard. and and Flesh and Blood being in a bauble is probably the biggest thing that is gonna catch a lot of people off guard. It seriously is, and it's going to be a real testament for who really likes the game and who's just here to make a quick buck, and who wants to just profit off this and leave. And overall, like I said in the before, it's going to happen. Who knows when? But it'll happen. But in my mind, it's not happening with the alpha stuff. It's gonna happen with stuff that's printed in 2021 in 2022. There's going to be some sort of event that occurs like that, and that is when maybe the bauble breaks and cracks, and there's other types of products that could go up or down depending on supply, man. And that's the key, because when you think about all this type of stuff, supply really does drive the not only demand but the price. I mean, if you know that there aren't that many booster boxes available out there on the secondary market, and you know not that many exist out there, that drives the price and that drives the demand. Because you're a collector, right? As a collector, I want something that's limited. I don't want something that everyone else has. If you said, Bronson, here, look at this promo card. Everyone else in the world has one. Do you want one too? I'd be like, yeah, okay. But I wouldn't be excited about it. I wouldn't be like, wow, like this is a big piece of history if every other person in the world had it. And but if you came to me and said, hey Bronson, this playmat is 1 out of 40, then you piqued my interest. And I'm like, well, tell me more. What does it have on it? What kind of artwork? Is it cool? But more than the artwork, I care about that 1 out of 40. That is a low denominator, my friend. So the emphasis on that is supply, man. Supply is huge. If you have a low supply, it increases not only collector demand, but there's not that many on the market, which drives the prices up as well. So it's an interesting thing right there, man. That's an interesting revelation for you, because when you hear about the whole economics and all this stuff of trading card games, it's the proverbial supply and demand. You know, when you go into economics, supply and demand equals price, or affects price in that graph, and who the heck cares about that? But to be really clear on this is a low supply not only increases the price, because it low supply, it increases the price on the supply and demand thing, but low supply creates demand, because it creates demand for the collectors who want something with the low supply. So the demand and the supply go up at the same time, and the price just goes to the moon. So when you have those old products like that, that is really what's happening. And over time, it's going to be quite interesting how those products are into the market. And I don't know how many exist. That's the big question, is how many sealed product really exists for Welcome to Wrath and Arcane Rising, and we don't know. It could literally be not that many. It could be a lot more than we expected. Who knows? And that is the big question out there, because if there are a ton, maybe they aren't priced right. But if there's very little, then maybe they aren't priced as much well either, and they could go up. But many different factors that we've talked, many different factors we talked about right now, and this topic is crazy, man, and it's gonna catch a lot of people off guard when it does happen, when the bauble does crack, because people so far just think that this game is money, including myself. I mean, it's hard not to. When I've purchased cards in the past in my collections, and I even made a video where I showed my collection. I showed all my stuff, And I thought at the time I was said, "Wow, this is just a bunch of random stuff. This is no big deal." But then I look back on that video a couple of days ago and I thought, "Jeez, what the heck? This is a lot of great stuff." I mean, I had the Ira welcome decks. I had, a sealed Arcade Rising booster box that I got for $150, and I had all this, the rainbow foil cards and all this stuff. And now it's a lot, and that's what it has been for a lot of people. So once that whole thing shifts where things that are bought do not go up in price instantly or do not go up as fast, or let's say something happens out there and there's some news and everything goes down, it's going to be interesting how all that stuff plays out. And to wrap it all up, to summarize, I know this has been pretty long for you guys. Is Flesh and Blood in a bauble? This is a normal guy in a normal room saying it probably is, but the question at the end is, do I think it's gonna crack? I don't I don't think so. Not for the alpha stuff. And if it does crack, if it does eventually crack, which it will, which there will be market stuff where things go down in the future. It probably will be from the new stuff, and even if the old stuff plummets, I don't think long term it's going to stay because of supply of stuff being in such short amount of people's hands that they do not want to undercut themselves. And if they sell things for lower price, then the only person they're screwing over is themselves because they have so much other sealed product of that product of the asset class that they they end up doing this thing where they devalue their own thing. And when you own 10, 15, 20, 30, 40% of the entire remaining Welcome to Wrath booster boxes, you want to maintain your price point and set that price point in the market. So there's no reason why you'd sell for lower. And yeah, that's just my humble opinion on this very interesting topic of baubles and them being cracked in the secondary market. And overall, I just want to tell you again, guys, just stay safe in the secondary market of Flesh and Blood. I'm currently just collecting stuff in my own price range. I've been priced out of the market for a lot of things that I've wanted for a very long time. But overall, I'm just having fun collecting. I'm having fun playing Flesh and Blood. I'm really enjoying the game for everything it has. But it's really good to just stay safe in this and only spend what you can. And if you're doing that investment stuff, all the best to you. I hope for the best in everything. And just know that things are the way they are, and I'd really like to hear other people's opinions on this. As I am just a humble, normal guy in a normal room, and I really love Flesh and Blood, but it's gonna be interesting what the future holds because you know, yeah. Have a good one, guys.